Did you hear me, Archan Siddhi?
Yes, and I thank you so much. Remind me.
Okay, okay. Om Ajnanatirandasya Janam Vinashlakya Tatmilitam Yen Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nam Shrishtam Manmati Satyaputram Matrasvarupam Rupam Tasya Grajamaruparim Mathirim Vaśvāvatim Radha Kundam Girivaram Maho Radhikamadhavasam Prapto Yasha Padita Gripaya Shri Gurum Tamatishmi Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaeva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Anarpitacharim Chidat Karunayavatirna Kaluham Shamarpaitam Natas Balarasam Savakti Shyam Hari Purata Sundara Dhyuti Kadamba Sandipitaha Sada Hridaye Kandare Sturato Vasachimandana Ajana Lambita Bhujo Kanakavadatu Sankirtanai Kapitaro Kamalaya Taksam Vishwambaro Duyavaro Jugadharmapalo Mandi Jagatyakaro Karunavataru Ladini Shakti Swarupaya Gauranga Suridaya Cha Bhakta Shakti Pradhanaya Gadadhara Namaste He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopīkā-nandano Radhe Vrindavanadishe Karunamrita Vahini Kripaya Nijapadabja Dasyan Mayam Pradiyatam Bhaktya Vihinaya Aparadha Lakshaya Chiptascha Kamaditarangamadhi Kripamaitam Sharanam Prapanam Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam Srila Gurudev ki jai, Sriman Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Shri Radha Madhav ki jai, Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Gopi-GITA ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premananda Haribo. So, good afternoon to all of you, and welcome. Again, we are today starting our 6th class about Gopi-GITA. Today we will be discussing the 4th verse of the whole series, after 2 introductory classes and 1 class dedicated for each one of the first 3 verses. So let's make a brief summary of yesterday's lecture. We were speaking about the 3rd verse of the Gopi-GITA. Viśva-jalapayad vyālalakṣasat bharasamarutad vaidutanalat vrisamayad mayad rakṣitāmuhu viśvato vayam vrishabhate vayam rakṣitāmuhu. The gopis are saying, "O greatest of great personalities, Rishabha," they like this, address Krishna with that name. "You have repeatedly protected us, saved us from all kinds of dangers from every direction." They started to enumerate, mention each one of them. Poisoned water, Kaliya, the terrible snake, Aga, great rains, Indra, Govardhan Lila, wind, Trinavarta, fire, these two forest fires that happened there at Braj, the thunderbolt, Indra again, bull demon, and the son of Maya Danava, Vyomasura. So the implication of this verse that apparently is not saying too much in a direct way. They're just saying you have repeatedly saved us on all these ways. By the indirect implication is that the gopis are implying, yes, you saved us all those times in a general way, abstract saving, if you will, protection. But now we need to be saved in a very specific and special way. And the form that it has to take is you have to reappear in our midst. So we also spoke about the different instances here, Krishna killing these demons, speaking about these demons also as representing different anarthas, different things to eradicate from our heart, and all these coming mostly before the Rasa Lila section, like implying before engaging in the topmost selfless loving exchange with the divine, you should be free from a considerable amount of impurities from your heart. So we spoke a little bit about these particular examples given by the gopis, the Kaliya Lila, Agasur Lila, Govardhan Lila, the killing of Trinavarta, Aristasur, Vyomasur, Vatsasur, which is an option if we understand Atmayad regarding to Vrisha, to Aristasur, the son of Aristasur is Vatsasur, the calf demon, and the two forest fires as well. And I won't enter into detail again about from all that. And also we mentioned these two explanations given by Jiva Goswami and viśva-guptaye, Jiva Goswami mentioning some of these leelas actually, like the killing of Aristasura and Vyomasura happened according to the Bhagavad after the Rasa Lila. But Jiva Goswami mentioned this happened before. And viśva-guptaye saying gopis were seeing the future. So we harmonize that, saying both explanations were correct, and in that case, in different kalpas. In one particular millennial era, age, Krishna killed them before and another after. Different sequence. But the point and the conclusion of this verse, as well as all of the rest, is the gopis implying to Krishna, please appear before us again. And again, it will be today, and again will be at every single song that conform this whole song called GOPI-GITA. So that's basically what we saw yesterday. Today we will see verse number 4. So I will share it in the chat section. Give me 1 minute. So there it is. Verse number 4 for the ones who would like to follow. I will recite it in Sanskrit first. Na khalu gopīkā-nandano bhavān akhila-dehinām antarātma-dṛk vikhanasārthito viśva-guptaye sakha udeyivān Sātvatāṁ kule. So the translation of this verse says, dear friend, you are not the darling son of a gopi, but rather the indwelling witness of all embodied souls. Because Lord Brahmā prayed for you to come and protect the universe, you have now appeared in the Sātvata dynasty. So a very nice, very interesting verse, whereas we will see, or as we are seeing already now, the gopis are acknowledging Krishna's godhood for a moment in the appraisal of their vipralam, if you will. So they are saying to Krishna, na khalu gopika, na means not, khalu means indeed. So they are re-establishing their point. Indeed, no, you're not, means khalu gopīkā-nandano bhavān. Bhavān means you, your good self. Indeed, you are not gopīkā-nandana. Gopika means of the gopi, and Nandana means the son. So indeed, you are not the son of a gopi, or of the gopi, of Yaśodā. That's the point here. That's the gopi. So Krishna is the son of Yaśodā, as we know, but we will see why the gopis are saying this, as you may imagine. So indeed, you are not the son of Yaśodā, of the gopi. Na khalu gopīkā-nandano bhavān. Who are you? Akhila-dehinām antarātma-dṛk. He said, akhila-dehinām antarātma-dṛk. Dṛk means the seer. Antarātma has to do with the inner consciousness. So you are the seer of the inner consciousness, akhila-dehinām, of all embodied living entities. Dehinām means embodied living entities, and akhila means of all. Another form of saying you are Paramatma, or you are God, basically. You are in every heart, you are omniscient, omnipresent, omni. So you are not the son of Yaśodā. You are actually the indwelling, if you will, soul, no, of everyone, the oversoul of every living entity. Akhila-dehinām antarātma-dṛk. Then the gopis say in the third line, vikhanasārthito viśva-guptaye. So being that who you are, God, vikhanasārthito. Vikhanas is a name for Brahma, Vikhanas. So Brahma, Arthito means he prayed for, he was afflicted. So he was afflicted and he prayed for your descent. Viśva-guptaye. Viśva means universe, and Guptaye means for the protection. So he prayed for you to protect the whole universe. We know this happened at the beginning of the 10th canto, where Krishna is invoked, if you will, to come to this world. And finally, after this considerable doses of Aishwarya, the gopis said, sakha udeyivān sātvatāṁ kule. They call him sakha. Sakha means friend. They say, oh friends, udeyivān sātvatāṁ kule. Kule means dynasty. Sātvatāṁ means the dynasty of the Sātvatas, from which Krishna is coming. Yaśodā dynasty, another word for it. Udeyivān means you arose. No? You arose in that dynasty, like the sun arising from the horizon. You appeared in that particular dynasty. Oh friend. So interestingly, they call him oh God, but in between, oh friend. So we will see this unique combination of bhavas in this fourth verse of the GOPI-GITA, and different possible interpretations of this particular verse from different perspectives, from different moons of different groups of gopis. So let's connect this verse with the previous ones. Let's remember in the second verse and in the third verse even, we explained how the gopis, which were the gopis' accusations, loving accusations to Krishna, and which were some of Krishna's retorts to that. Remember in the second verse, the gopis were saying, you do not only steal, but you also kill. Good thief, good killer. So if you do not appear, you are killing not only one gopi, but millions of gopis with the arrows of your glances. So you may kill us right now, but we are not alive nor death now. So please, we are in this intolerable agony now. So that's much worse than death itself. So do one thing or do the other, but do something. So the gopis were accusing Krishna, criticizing him in that particular way. The second verse. And in the third verse, yesterday, somehow or other they were accusing Krishna of being a betrayer of their faith. Because you protected us generally on many occasions, so gradually we started to trust you. Imagine if someone comes to your life and protects you in so many different difficult moments, many times, there's a point where you fully trust that person, and suddenly that person betrays you. And maybe they imply in their loving expression, maybe you wanted to gain our confidence to now kill us in this way. What's going on here? So you protected us generally, but you are not protecting us now that we need the most. You are a betrayer of our faith. We put our faith in you, and now you are not reciprocating. Yatamam prapadanti tam sataiva bhajamyaham, Krishna says in Gita. As someone surrenders to me, I will reciprocate. So the Gopi is saying, we surrender sarvadharmam parityaja fully, but you are not coming, nothing is coming, you are not coming. So to all this, Krishna replied, you call me a murderer, a killer of women, a betrayer of faith. A possible reply to those two verses in between those and this verse. So you call me those ill names. You say that I want to kill millions of you. If I do not go and meet you, I will have to suffer millions of sinful reactions. You are threatening me in that way. So Krishna may say, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's purport, why are you speaking such cruel words to me? So I cannot bear the anguish that such piercing words are causing me. So I'm leaving this place immediately and will not return in this whole lifetime. According to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Krishna is playing hard in between these verses and is saying that in the Spurti, in the revelation to the gopis. So at that moment, the gopis will see Krishna's face so filled with pain, and they will have some fear. Oh, Krishna, maybe he will become angry and eventually never come back again. Like when Yaśodā chastised Krishna because of what he did in the Damodar Lila, and Krishna was escaping from her. And she was actually, she didn't want to tie him, chastise him. She says was scared, oh, maybe Krishna is enraged with me and he's escaping from me and he will never come back to Braj. So that will be too much for her. So in the same way, the gopis say, oh, maybe Krishna is really angry, sad, and he will never come back. So they were starting to wonder what will happen if he doesn't return. So their own anger subsided for a moment. It's explained by the Purvacharyas, and they spoke the present birth here, and they implied like it was our mistake that we spoke those words, those violent words towards you. Really, you are sakha. They say sakha friend. You are our friend. So they express a variety of moods in this verse to make Krishna pleased with them. So as I mentioned, interestingly, in this verse, as it will happen in some other verses, the gopis are aware of all aspects of Krishna's Aishwarya or divinity, godhood. Even though it seems that no one in Vrindavan acknowledges this, certain particular moments, as we spoke in some question that I remember Mahara made some weeks ago, that comes to the surface in particular moments in separation, but in a particular way, as we will see. So the gopis are aware of those aspects, but at the same time, we will see they are more concerned with, not so much with that, but mainly with that things that pertain to their own lives, which is the fact that Krishna is the son of Yaśodā. Because Krishna is the son of Yaśodā, as we all see, even though the gopis seem to say something else. So gopis are worshipping Krishna in raga marg. They are ragatmikas. So passionate love is this. And passionate love includes in its worship the worship of all the other word forms, the worship of all the other forms of God, and all types of transcendental love are included and more in this particular path. So the point is, even though they are not worshipping Krishna overtly with Aishwarya, all those elements are present somewhere there. But as we always say, totally buried by layers and layers of intimacy. So the gopis also here call Krishna, so antarātma-dṛk, you are the oversoul, the overseer of all, the indwelling guide. And you responded to Brahma's appeal at the time when the earth was like overburdened by the mentality of exploitation. We know all this. So that speaks of Krishna as Aishwarya. Brahma, he's called Vikhanasārthito or Vikhanasārthito. Vikhanasārthito has to do with the act of digging. So that's a name for Brahma, which means he's digging from the mine of the Vedas in a very special way, which means he's pondering over the purport of the Vedas in every possible way. It's why it is said that he has 4 heads. In every every 4 direction, he's thinking and pondering the meaning of the Vedas. Of course, as we know, there is a point when his 4 heads become spinning when he enters the Braj at the same time. But here we're speaking on certain level, on Brahma related to Krishna as God, asking him to come to relieve the earth and so on. So Krishna responded to Brahma, responded to the earthly plight, human plight, because as Guru Maharaj will say, Krishna is at home in human society. That's his favorite playground, if you will. That's his home, basically. So Braj on earth is his homeland, specifically, where he performs his eternal lila. So he feels himself at home in the midst of human society. So he was born in Sātvatāṁ kule, Gopi says here, Yaśodā dynasty. But although he appears in that line, in a certain level, if we will want to consider him as being born from Vasudeva Devaki, which is a apparent, if you will, it seems that he was born there. Actually, we know he's the son of Yaśodā first and foremost, because the parental love, especially the maternal love of Yaśodā, exceeds all other types of love, Devaki included. She herself recognized that when they met at the Kurukshetra in the solar eclipse. And Krishna is controlled by the devotee's love. So wherever there's the highest love, Krishna is appearing there in the more prominent way. So there's a very nice verse in the Bhagavad which speaks about Yaśoda's love, and it's a very famous sloka that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur considers the Paribhas Sutra of the Krishna Lila. He says like this. Now the verse says, Trayap Chupanishabdischa Sankhya Yogashta Sātvatāṁ Upagiyamana Mahatmyam Harim Samanya Tatmajam. So basically this verse, this is found in the section of Damodar Lila, 8th chapter, 10th canto, verse 45. So the Sukadev says, the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are studied through all the three Vedas. It says here, Traya Chopanishabdischa. The Upanishad, Traya, the three Vedas, Sankhya Yoga, Sātvata, the books of Sankhya Yoga and other Vaishnava literature. But Upagiyamana Mahatmyam Harim Samanya Tatmajam. Yet Mother Yaśodā considered that Supreme Person her ordinary child. So the Vedas are saying Krishna is the Supreme God, we should fold our hands to him. But Yaśodā says, I don't agree with that conclusion. And she has Krishna in her fold, in her lap. So who is right of the two? Who is more closer to the real conclusion? The Vedas saying Krishna is the Supreme God and we aspire to reach him someday, or Yaśodā saying, I have him with me already and I do not agree with the idea that he's God. So our particular Siddhanta follows not so much the Veda, the Upanishads, but the Bhagavad, wherein we find this particular conclusion. Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam, and that idea is playing out fully in the Braja Lila and through persons like Yaśodā. So in the purport to this verse, Thakur Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mentions very nicely in that sense. Krishna was not able to fully respond to the amount of affection of Yaśodā, even though he's famous for reciprocating. So he remained a debtor towards her. And he was, being a debtor, he was content to be dependent on Yaśoda's mercy and control. And he cried for her milk. So he was happy remaining himself in that position of a debtor, not being able to fully reciprocate, and merely poshana, sustaining, being nurtured by the mercy of his devotees. That's what we worship. Vishwanath Chakravarti said one should take this verse of the Paribhas Sutra of the Krishna Lila. Paribhas Sutra sometimes gives the example is given. It's like a lamp. If you put a lamp in one place in a dark room, and it's lighting the whole room. So in the same way, there are certain statements in the scriptures that can reveal the meaning of all the scriptures. As one light will reveal the whole room, certain specific statements will reveal the meaning of whole body of literature, or regulate the meaning of the scripture, will put everything in context. So such statements are called Paribhas Sutra. So Paribhas Sutra, one that we find in the Bhagavad is Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam, and this has a lot to do with that. It's like a natural implication of that. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God, and in which sense? Well, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says this here. This verse is acting standing as a regulator for all the pastimes related to Aishwarya, he says, shown during Krishna's Kumar and Kishore ages in Mathura, Kurukshetra, and elsewhere. Important point. He says, so according to all these leelas where Krishna is showing Aishwarya outside of Braj, or wherever for that case, for that matter, we have to put all of that in the context of this particular verse. What he's speaking about, even though he's glorified as such, this and that, Mother Yaśodā is looking at him from a particular perspective. And that's what has to put everything in context for us. The love of Vrindavan, the love of the Brajavasis. So it's important to know how to navigate between these two currents, if you will, of Aishwarya and Madhurya, because in the Bhagavad we will find this over and over again. Sukadeva Goswami, in a very expert way, he's woven his narrative in between the two, for us to properly understand the idea of intimacy and love of God. For properly relishing Madhurya, you have to be, you have to learn to incorporate this Aishwarya, because if not, Krishna being a baby only, without his being God, he's just one more baby. So that's not so extraordinary. They will be charming, but not so charming as if God is appearing as Yaśoda's son. So you have to include and consider the Aishwarya in order to fully appreciate the Madhurya component. So here the gopis, on some level of some perspective of purport, they are calling Krishna Paramatma, as we say, the indwelling guide. And generally Paramatma, it is said that he's neutral, right? He's a witness, he's not interfering in one's life generally. But this is not so with Krishna, as we know. That's a different disposition, even though we speak about the same truth. Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavan, Sri Krishna, iti shabdyate. So Krishna may be the indwelling guide of all in his partial manifestation as Paramatma. But here the gopis know him mainly as the son of Yaśodā, even though they are denying that in one particular spirit, in context, chastising him in the previous verses, and now trying to somehow or other pacify him, at least from a certain group of gopis. Again, now we will see some other possible renderings of this verse, but the gopis are not at all trying to pacify Krishna. So the point of the gopis is, you are not Paramatma, eventually. You are the son of Yaśodā. Sometimes when you say to someone, you are not the son of Yaśodā, it's like implying, you are. You indeed are. So that was one idea. So since you are the son of Yaśodā, you are not Paramatma, you are not impartial as Paramatma, but you are partial towards your devotees as Bhagavan. You should be partial to us, your devotees, with our plight. Because you are partial to Yaśodā. So we also are the object of Yaśoda's love. The gopis present that point. Yaśodā loves us so much. So if you have partiality towards her, naturally that type of partiality will take you to be partial to those in relation to whom she is partial as well. So we are those. We are dear to your mother. So you should be partial to us. Bhagavatam mentioned this point. Samaham sarvabhutisu name dvesistina priya. Yivayanti tumam bhaktya. Well, last line disappeared. But Krishna is saying there in the ninth chapter of the Gita, I'm equal to all living beings. I'm not partial in this direction. He's speaking from the Paramatma side. But the second part, Jevayanti tumam bhaktya lamedvesistina, something like this. But to those who have a special feeling for me, I'm partial towards them. But he's partial, spiritually speaking, not mundane, because if God is partial, that's a fault in him. But he's impartial, and in the context of his impartiality as God or Paramatma, he's more than Paramatma in his form of Krishna, and he's more than impartial by being transcendentally partial towards his devotees, while at the same time he still is impartial as Paramatma. So his divine partiality does not, if in one sense, like dismiss his impartiality. That's something we have to get to know gradually. Guru Maharaj in his aesthetic Vedanta also in this connection mentioned that the Paramatma feature of God is mainly characterized by impartiality. We say mainly because actually it's not that Paramatma is totally cold, like a stone, like a statue not moving. Chaitanya Charitamrita says that the Chaitya Guru, Paramatma, appears outside like our Guru. And the Guru is a figure who is not impartial, in the sense that she's bestowing mercy, which is it hasn't to do that much with justice, if you will, with karma, but with mercy again. So Chaitya Guru means someone who somehow or other is trying to help us. But we say Paramatma is impartial in comparison to Bhagavan, if you will. So Paramatma is compassionate, that's the point. At the same time, it's not cold-hearted, hard-hearted. He's an avatar of Narayan. Narayan is compassionate. And the fact that he's acting as a witness is like in relation to his deference to karma and justice. That's the point. In that direction, that agency, he's acting perfectly. But also he's compassionate. It doesn't mean that he lacks compassion. In one sense, the whole world is manifest out of the compassion, of his compassion for the sadhakas. So this is the point. But Paramatma is, again, he's mainly characterized by impartiality. But Bhagavan, says Guru Maharaj future, is ornamented by partiality towards his devotees. This is stated over and over again in the Bhagavatam also. Ham bhakta paradino yashtratan trivadvijan, and so on. No? Bhagavan saying, I'm totally controlled by my devotees, I belong to them, I don't have the least independence in my side, and so on. So Bhagavan is partial toward his devotees. Bhagavan, I'm in a generic sense, Vishnu even, Narayan. And Krishna is extremely so, extremely captured by the power of love. That's the point. And that's why he's the supreme personality of Godhead. So all these foundational aspects of our philosophy need to be in place if we are to really inhabit these concepts someday, or really walk the talk, as they say. There's a whole period for proper understanding and processing all these ideas if we are to enter into this land where all this Siddhanta has to be, as I said, inhabited. So we should understand this. In an ordinary way, partiality we know is a defect, especially in relation to spiritual life. We may think, if we want to help someone but not others, if we are speaking about God, so we feel, well, God must be impartial. If not, he's not God, he's flawed. But again, as the indwelling guide, he's impartial. But as Krishna, who is something more than God, as we always say, he's God beyond God. God is an aspect of Krishna, as we always say. Krishna is not an aspect of God, but vice versa. So as Krishna, he's partial to those who love him, which is also an opportunity open to all. All of us can love him. So he has the potential and the disposition to be partial to everyone. That's the point. And this partiality is devoid of all ignorance. Generally, partiality is connected to illusion, bias, mundane bias. So that's why it's a flaw. But here we speak about the partiality totally devoid of avidya. And that type of feeling is the one who is fueling, we're going to say, the spiritual world. The partiality of bhav, spiritual emotion, which is manifesting only after one crossed over the boundaries of friends and enemies. When you transcend this duality, you can be impartial, but you are also ready to enter into the land of divine partiality, world fueled by bhav, which seems like ordinary, but is super extraordinary. That's why it's called aprakrita. Prakrita means mundane. Adokshaya means overtly transcendental, and aprakrita means even beyond adokshaya, even beyond the transcendental, but even though it seems mundane, again, Vrindavan. Vrindavan has to do with the Vaikuntha, has to do with the overtly transcendental the realm, where this is God, this is impartial, this is transcendental, this is pure, everything is correct. But when you go to Braj, it seems you are going backwards and returning to the Prakrita, but actually it's aprakrita if you get a closer look. it seems mundane, but it's super transcendental, even above Vaikuntha. You have their ecstatic partiality, Krishna appearing like a human, and all these type of things that we really need to approach with proper understanding. So the gopis are devotees of this caliber. They are beyond dualities, beyond this world, even though they behave as like ignorant girl from the village. When they appear, for example, as Rupa, Sanatan, and Gaur Lila, you realize they are not ordinary at all. and the so-called ordinary presentation in Braj, it's part of the charm of the place, and it's a way of hiding the most secret treasure. It's a filter for our sincerity and our adhikar. And it's speaking about the power of beauty and charm and sweetness present there, bearing all the other types of Aishwarya, knowledge, renunciation that is there, but it's not necessary there. It could be disturbing to the peaceful environment. So Krishna should reappear before them because they are such devotees. They know him on intimate terms. They know him as the son of Yaśodā, so he should reciprocate with them. What else? Furthermore, if Krishna appeared on earth, as the gopis are saying here, at the request of Brahma, for the protection of the pious, as certainly he did, the gopis should not be ignored as part of that project, if you will, because if Krishna came for protecting the pious, paritranaya sadhunam, well, what's piety? Dharma. Dharma has to do with piety. And the Bhagavatam says, samsiddhir harito shanam. Real dharma, real piety lies in satisfying God. As much as you please the divine, we are speaking in terms of dharma. That's the ultimate conception of dharma. Para dharma, savai punsham paro dharma, prema dharma. And the gopis are the most dharmic persons in that sense, even though it seems they are rejecting all dharma, sarva dharma parityaja, they are rejecting all so-called dharma to fully embrace the ultimate dharma, which is mamekam sharanam braja. Only come to me exclusively in Braj. So the gopis were more expert in exhibiting this type of piety, if you will, even though it presents itself as impiety, transgressing social norms, family codes, domestic duties, so on, but in pursuit of the highest dharma of all. So Krishna should reappear before the gopis, even in consideration, if you will, that he is the indwelling guide, because the gopis have not ignored his guidance like others. They have followed him everywhere. He follows all. Krishna as Paramatma is residing in the hearts of all, following everyone, if you will, and the gopis are following Paramatma in his ultimate form as Krishna. Everywhere Krishna plays the flute, gopis are there. So even if we want to consider himself as the Jonas son of Yaśodā or as Paramatma, Krishna should reciprocate in both cases. So Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur in his purport, some few words more regarding this possibility of gopis trying to pacify Krishna. After that, we will go to the most intense section of the gopis who are not in that particular mode. So Vishwanath mentions paraphrasing Krishna as an answer to this, to the gopis, say, okay, if you know all these, if you know that I am Paramatma and so on, why are you speaking such harsh words to me? Like before. So it's Vishwanath say, here is such comment by Krishna, it's like the gopis are saying here, no friends, no sakha, they say friend. You have submerged us in an ocean of loving friendship, sakya ras, a form of sakya, if you will, with you. By your words, by your actions, by your glances, you have imparted sakya into us. You are created a very friendly atmosphere, and that's why we spoke to you like that. When you are between friends, you use certain names, you call them names. So as a friend, you are our friend. As a friend, you protect the whole universe. So please, you should also protect us who reside within the universe. You came to protect the whole planet Earth because Brahma called you. We are part of that, so protect us. And again, protect us is a specific type of protection they are requesting here. So this is the first wave, if you will, of explaining this particular verse from a particular perspective. from a certain group of gopis who will feel inspired according to their personal mood to approach Krishna in a more, if you will, submissive way, begging forgiveness and being afraid he may leave us and so on. So now let's go to another possibility that also some of our Purvacharyas have given regarding possible retorts and background to these words that are not that light, if you will. And in this context, Vallabhacharya says something very interesting. He said, given, here the gopis are presenting 2 points. Krishna is the son of, 2 ideas, son of Yaśodā and Paramatma, God. So Vallabhacharya will say, given that the Lord is Yaśoda's son, all rebukes directed at him are appropriate. Like implying he's an ordinary person, he has a father, he needs rebuking, he doesn't behave nicely. He's the son of Yaśodā. He's not God, so he can be rebuked. So all rebukes to him are appropriate. But Vallabhacharya says he is not only that, implying he's God. Hence, all rebukes of him are improper. So like trying to establish, be careful. If you want to rebuke God, you have to be in the bhav of the gopis and seeing him in a particular way. Because if not, if you just start insulting God because wanting to follow the gopis, you may end up in some aparat. So depending the perspective, God is to be rebuked, Krishna is to be rebuked, or God is not to be rebuked. So Sridhar Swami, the ancient commentator of the Bhagavad, he mentioned that this verse was spoken by the gopis with the idea in mind that it's utterly inappropriate for you, who have descended, to protect the whole world, to disregard your devotees. Actually, that should be the main reason for you to descend. But it seems that you came because Brahma called you to protect the earth. And yes, it's a devotee of yours, of course, but I mean, we are your devotees, if you will. You are not protecting us. So the gist of the verse, according to Sridhar Swami, is we don't know why you are giving us such sadness. So again, they are chastising Krishna, rebuking him lovingly. You came protected there, but you are not protecting us. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also shares that particular possibility, mentioning that he says another meaning by the gopis, like implying there's not only one meaning. So please bear with me if you just expected, okay, this verse will be explained in this particular way and just that's all. Not necessarily. So according to Vishwanath, the gopis are saying no one among men, among devas, among animals, or among birds, they mentioned these 4 realms, species, can bear to see the suffering of those who are dear to them, men, devas, animals, birds. But since you remain happy, even observing our misery, we must conclude that you are outside of these 4 categories of creatures. And yes, they were right. Krishna is not a man, not a deva, not an animal, not a bird. It's in a classic category of his own. As we will see also after the GOPI-GITA. They start to ask the gopis to Krishna, who are you? Which type of hero are you? And they start to describe all the possibilities, and Krishna is not fitting in any of those. He's in a category of his own. But the gopis are rebuking him. These creatures are suffering for those who are dear to him, and you must not be in any of these categories because you are not suffering for us, for our suffering who are so dear to you. And they say, it is not possible that you are this. They say, na khalu gopika here. You indeed cannot be khalu gopīkā-nandano bhavān. You cannot be the son of Yaśodā. Why? One of the many reasons. Not precisely because you are God and so on. You cannot be the son of the gopi Yaśodā because we know Yaśodā. We are so dear to her. She's so dear to us. We know her heart. And her heart melts at even the slightest distress felt by another person. We know her. She's so compassionate. So she's so soft-hearted that she could not possibly have given birth to one such cruel, harsh, merciless, ill-natured, corrupt son as you. So we do not detect in you a single particle of your mother, of Yaśoda's virtues in you. So as you can see, some gopis are speaking strongly here. So it's impossible. I mean, we have to make some DNA checking to see who you are, where are you coming from, because we don't find a single particle of any quality from your mother in you. So Krishna may ask to them and reply to them, so if I'm not Yaśoda's son, who am I? Then who am I? So there the gopis say, then we surmise that you are the indwelling controller for all living beings. And they start to criticize now the control of all living beings also. That's the position of the gopis. They criticize Krishna, criticize Paramatma, criticize Brahma, as we will see, but no reaction is coming to them because they are doing that in a particular mood. So say we conclude that you are God, the indwelling controller of all, and you are seeing the sufferings of all living beings, and you are made passive, sitting happily within the hearts as the super soul, not getting involved in a merciful way. They speak in that particular term. Of course, it's not that Paramatma is such, but they're using this idea to, again, rebuke Krishna. We have to develop some, some sensibility as to the moods of love, as to the language of love, as to the intention and how the gopis are expressing their heart, their feelings to their beloved, even though it seems they're saying something else. We should gradually get acquainted internally with this particular language. It's a whole language of its own. Poetry, indirect moods, and so on. So they say, therefore, we cannot understand why you, and they call him the crest jewel of indifferent persons. You know that Krishna is called the crest jewel of something, but here the gopis are rebuking him. Crest jewel of all indifferent persons, how you have appeared in this world. Most probably because, yes, Brahma requested you to come, and Brahma wanted to increase his own creation. So you descended in this universe to protect that, his creation, to fulfill the desire of Brahma, increasing the scope of his creation. You came and you accepted actions which are contrary to Dharma, like stealing the wives of others. We are witness of that, the gopis say. Stealing the possessions of others. You are very renowned for stealing clothes, stealing butter. As we say, stealing. All that is totally adharmic. So you came under the disguise of coming to help Brahma and showing pride, envy, violence to hide your true nature. So we do not realize how he's God. So you were rejecting your own irrefutable laws of religion. God establishes Dharma originally. He's the Dharma establisher. But you came in this form, Krishna, and you started to show exactly the opposite, and you appear now in the Sātvata family. So that's another possibility of the verse. But that's not all. Also, the word now, which is the very first word of the verse, which means now or not. Alternatively, na, since it's stated at the very beginning of the verse, such a word negates, it's possible, everything that comes after that. So the verse says na, and so many other things after. So that na may negate whatever is said after that. So if we want to understand the verse in that sense, well, there's another meaning to that. So the gopis will be speaking to Krishna like, how do you say, like spoil sport, something like this. The one who is ruining the whole party. So, hey, you spoil, they speak to Krishna like, hey, spoil sport, you are not the son of Yaśodā. Na khalu gopīkā-nandano bhavān. Because if you were, again, you wouldn't disregard us, and instead you will show qualities like being controlled by a devotee, like you show in Damodar Lila. You will be merciful like your mother, and so on. So again, that's very important. Or they say you are not gopi-nandana. Gopīkā-nandana means na khalu gopīkā-nandano bhavān. Nandana means son, but also Nandana means the one who delights. No? In this case, the gopis, not Yaśodā. So Gopī-kā-nandano may mean the son of a gopi or the one who gives pleasure to the gopis. So they say in this case, na gopīkā-nandana. You are not the delighter of the gopis. We are not giving any type of happiness to us. No? If not, we will be in this situation and the exact opposite will be happening if you will be Gopī-kā-nandana. And actually, you are not Paramatma either. The gopis start to deprive Krishna of every possible label. You are not anything of these things. Paramatma knows, that's again another possibility. Paramatma knows everyone's happiness and distress, but you are not aware of the extent of the pain in our hearts, the gopis imply. If you will be Paramatma, you will know that and you will do something about that because it's too much what we are going through. And also, the verse says, Brahma pray for you to come. The gopis say, nah. Remember, nah denies everything after that. It cannot be true that Brahma prayed to you for you to come and protect this universe. Because if you had come in response to his prayer, you will actually protect everyone, including us. And that's not happening. And finally, last part of the verse, sātvatāṁ kule, which says, you appeared in the Sātvata dynasty. But the gopis say, nah. You could not have appeared in the dynasty. Sātvatāṁ kule has two meanings. One is the Jadu dynasty, and also Sātvata comes from Sat, from Sadhu, a dynasty of devotees. So the gopis taking the two terms with both meanings in mind. They say, it's not possible that you appeared in a dynasty of devotees. Why do they say that? Because they say we see that none of the qualities of a devotee, like unconditional compassion, kripalu, titiksha, and so on, you are not exhibiting any of those qualities. So impossible. So in this way, it's like all the verse implies, nah. You are not the son of Yaśodā. You are not the one who gives pleasure to the gopis. You are not Paramatma. You didn't answer Brahma's prayer. You were not born in the Sātvata dynasty. And if Krishna may like to retort saying to the gopis, actually it's you who are not my devotees. You are accusing me of not being born in the dynasty of devotees, but you are the non-devotees. So according to Jiva Goswami, the gopis will reply saying, vikhanasārthito viśva-guptaye. Brahma requested you to protect everyone, even the non-devotees. So even if we are not devotees, you should protect us. But in truth, the gopis imply with this. In truth, however, among the devotees, we have a special mood. So we deserve special care from you. We deserve a special, as we say, protection. That you take care of us in a specific way, that you appear with us in a special way. And they qualify this idea with the word sakha, which means old friend. No? So we are related with one another. You are so dear, near and dear to us, and vice versa. So you should pay close attention to us, special attention. Going back for a moment to this idea of the gopis expressing Aishwarya here, if we take the idea that possibly they say to Krishna, you are God, let's concentrate in that for a moment, which is an important point here. They say that in the context of Lila, the gopis obtain some knowledge of the godhood of Krishna, the dynamics of the Lila, by hearing from sages about the glory of Krishna. Oh, Krishna is this, Krishna is that. Again, the gopis are only in the mood of madhurya, sweetness, which consists of seeing him only as you say, gopīkā-nandano, the one who gives pleasure to the gopis. So when these types of Aishwarya come in the way, Krishna is God, Krishna did this, Krishna did that, Krishna will do that. All these types of Aishwarya, they turn all these forms of Aishwarya into reasons to increase their madhurya, to motivate Krishna to do what they want him to do. In this case, appear before us. So they will use Aishwarya as an argument for that point. You should appear before us because you are God and blah, blah, blah. But they are not interested about himself being God, as we already mentioned many times. Actually, they are very begging to get what they want, that is, Krishna appear so we can really serve you as you deserve. We will see that's appearing in many other parts of Bhagavad, and also in the famous Brahmā-gita, or the Song of the Bumblebee. Also Sri Radharani at one point speaking with the bumblebee and say, taking the bumblebee as Krishna or as an agent of Krishna, I know you, or I know your master. He appeared in many other birds, like Ramachandra, and he cut Surpanaka's nose, and as Vamana, he cheated Bali Maharaj. And she started to mention all different avatars of Krishna, which is Aishwarya. But as much as she was doing that, no, her Madhurya was increasing. So that's a special feature of their expression of Aishvarya. Some acharyas also mentioned that it may seem that when the gopis tell Krishna, you are the super soul, they are speaking like in a mood of awe and reverence, and they believe it. Oh, see, yes, you are the super soul. But actually, this is not so. Some acharyas mention the gopis at that point are repeating the utterance of others, the opinion of others, sages. They have heard from some, yeah, Krishna is God. Okay, you are. So they use that as an argument in this particular moment that it's necessary for him to reappear. They won't be speaking about that at other moment. For them, it's close to Prajalpa to say those things. If Krishna says in Vrindavan, I'm God, that will be his false ego, basically, not his real identity. But this is not the gopis' own idea, according to some acharyas. Krishna is God. They just hear that of some sages in the dynamics of the Lila. Of course, they have that Aishvarya inherent in them, but it's so much buried under layers and layers of Madhurya. So the point is that whenever the gopis refer to Krishna as the son of Devaki, or the son of Vasudeva, as Brahman, Paramatma, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead are doing here, they will do in the Brahmā-gita, as I say, they're repeating the words of others, according to some acharyas. Because they personally know Krishna, again, as the son of Yaśodā, as Gopī-gita-nandano, and nothing more. That's their Krishna. So they are thinking in that particular way. No? They're insulting lovingly Krishna here, saying, "Oh, you are Krishna, you all of all indifferent person, of all neutral personalities." Some sarcasm is there. So now we understand that you, the super soul, have taken birth in Braj, but we cannot understand how or why. We have heard this from authorities like Garga Muni, Bhaguri Muni, all these sages, Purnamasi, Brahma prayed for you to appear. These things we hear from them. But that is all we know. No? So the gopis express themselves in this type of divine ignorance. Ignorance is bliss, they say. This Gyan Sunya Bhakti, as Srila Sridhar Maharaj would say, like brain dead bhakti. Even though they have the topmost knowledge, all that becomes over when they come in Gaur Lila. Here, all this is buried and buried and buried, as we say. No? And again, as we mentioned, they only speak like this, Aishvaric terms, no? You are God, you are Paramatma. They only will speak like this in the sorrow of separation from Krishna, not in the midst of their joyful union, no? Enjoying different pastimes together. That won't happen. So specifically, no? In particular moments of separation, that will come to the surface. Not when they are feeling happy and satisfied. Unless they are grieving, none of the inhabitants of Vrindavan will speak like that. We have the example, for example, apart from the gopis, the example of Nanda Baba, Nanda Maharaj. When Uddhava went to Braj to send a message to the Brajavasi, first he went to the house of Nanda Maharaj. So he spoke like this to Uddhava when he came to Braj. He didn't believe. Uddhava tried to give some Aishwarya, some philosophical knowledge. Your son is God. You shouldn't lament. God is everywhere. So Nanda Maharaj was like a madman at that point in separation. So he couldn't believe that his son was God. Rather, he told Uddhava, again with sarcasm, in a sarcastic way, he said, okay, you say that my boy is God. He's God. If he's really God, he should try to give us salvation on some other boon. Actually, they are not interested in nothing like that. He's being sarcastic. No? If in fact he's God, may he be pleased with us. No? Like you say with God. God may be pleased with us. In sarcastic terms. No? So in that way, Nanda Baba's mood was similar to the gopis here. And as we mentioned many times, actually there's far more Aishvarya and Madhurya than in any other realm, including Vaikuntha, Dwarka, Mathura, all of them put together. Vrindavan is the topmost Aishvaric place, but it is the topmost Madhurya place, even above Aishvarya. So all this majestic knowledge of the Godhood of Krishna and so many other forms of renunciation, knowledge, and opulence, all is there in Braj fully. But above that, the intimacy and sweetness of a particular type of love is there, covering all the other things. So that's why this Vrindavan is so cryptical, so extraordinary. We need a specific bhakti samskars to penetrate this into this realm, enter into this realm of, as Guru Maharaj will say, penetration into transcendence. And another option is that the gopis imply, well, it is absolutely certain that you are not only the son of Yaśodā. That's another in-between option. You are also the super soul. Okay, you are the son of Yaśodā, but you are also the super soul who resides in the heart of all living beings. Like, okay, that's secondary. You are super soul. First, you are the son of Yaśodā. That's an extraordinary thing that even if they accept Krishna as God, that's still on a secondary level, never primary. Not like Arjuna become overwhelmed by seeing viśva-guptaye. No. As we say once, Nanda Maharaj will say, oh, he's God, okay. But first he's my son and I have to educate him and maybe I have to chastise him. And maybe he's God also. I don't care. So the gopis' moods, as we see, are constantly changing due to the ecstasy and the separation, rising and falling like waves in the ocean always. This is example. The ocean of Bhakti Rasa and Brita Sindhu. The ocean of Bhakti Rasa and had many waves, high tides, low tides, and so intense agitation is there, and different opinions, sometimes apparently contradictory, but we should bear in mind all this is spoken in the madness of divine love, and we will fully able to understand this by inhabiting these concepts, by going there and never return. So when the gopis address Krishna both as Paramatma or as their friend, in a subtle way, they're criticizing him for not appearing, whether he's Paramatma or whether he's our friend. So just some more brief words and I'm almost finishing. We are speaking about Krishna's descent. In this verse, this is invoked, the principle of avatar, divine descent. So there is also one interesting possibility in this regard. No? In the same way that we know that Vishnu, God, Narayan, told Shiva, preach in such a way that atheistic person will neither know God nor perform bhakti to him in the form of Sankara. The gopis are saying him to Brahma, that Brahma, vikhanasārthito viśva-guptaye, that Brahma prayed to Krishna to appear in this world, but the gopis imply, but also they prayed to keep his identity secret so that Brahma's creation will not come to an end. What's the meaning of this? They say, they said to Krishna, if you would have manifested your complete self in this world, you have manifested your true identity, everyone will know that you are God and they will perform bhakti to you, and everyone will be liberated from this world, and Brahma's entire creation will be in vain because no one will remain here. So Brahma is also your devotee and has that particular desire, so that should be fulfilled somehow or other. So that for this reason, Brahma has implored you to appear, but to conceal your identity. And because of this, you have come in disguise. And so now you came in disguise as a thief. Thief generally comes in disguise, a devotee, by mixing with other Sātvata, a womanizer, mixing with other wives. And you have been well practiced from boyhood. So you are a good cheater, you are a good liar also. So they are like, it seems that they are glorifying Krishna at one point, but they're subtly criticizing him. So the point is that when those who have some faith in God discover this about you, that you as God descended in this disguised way and doing all these weird things, they will become atheistic, like Jarasandha and others who are example of this. So in this way, the gopis are taunting Krishna, joking, like playing words with him and so on, like saying, you appear in the dynasty of the Yadus, the dynasty of the saintly devotees, but at the same time you're stealing others' wives. So this is evidence that you have abandoned the qualities belonging to the super soul, who is very saintly and impartial. It seems that you have deviated from your own nature. So nobody apart from the gopis can speak to Krishna and remain alive, if you will. And at the same time, they're addressing Krishna as sakha, again, friend. So by saying to him friend, also they are teasing him, because they're implying that is your impiety and your immorality. That's why we are your friend, because because of your meeting with other men's wives, that has made you our friend, the gopis say. in those terms, we are friends, the gopis say, because of your impiety, of your lack of paramatma-ness. So they say, so now you are our friend. Paramatma coming in disguise, God coming in disguise and doing some mischievous thing, now is our friend in this particular so-called illegal terms. But they conclude in a very excellent way, say, okay, so now you are our friend in this particular terms, and someone who is a friend, we want to remove his friend's unhappiness somehow or other. That's a friend, sakha. You're sakha. But you are not doing anything to remove our painful feeling of separation. You are being indifferent to our suffering. So please protect your reputation as our friend and be our friend. So again, the conclusion of this verse, as with everyone else, is appear before us. So from another perspective, from another gradual increasing of the emotions, Krishna, the gopis are speaking this particular fourth verse of the GOPI-GITA. Any questions?
Maharaj, I have a question from like a previous class. Is that okay?
Previous class from the GOPI-GITA?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it's about the gopi selflessness, and you had mentioned that Radharani's selflessness was a higher degree than the gopis, and I was wondering, because I had read today, Sridhar Maharaj was just saying that the Harikatha anyone's Harikatha will depend upon their priti, and this was, I think, in relation to a devotee, but he was saying Radharani's Harikatha and Chandravali's Harikatha are different. And then he said, according to the intensity of realization, the purity of realization, it differs. And I think he was speaking that in relation to devotees, but I was wondering if the selflessness that goes on in Vraj is ever increasing, and then if it is ever increasing, do different devotees have different levels of selflessness? And in that way, I was also wondering about all Nitya Siddhas. Do they have different degrees of selflessness? And then it almost seems like I'm looking at it in a material way, like, does that mean there's selfishness? And I know there isn't in the spiritual world, but I just have that question. I was wondering if is that okay? Do you understand?
I think so, yeah. Well, actually, I should say that in order to enter the spiritual domain, you have to be selfless, totally selfless. That's the very basic of that. If you speak, for example, about these 5 rasas, the five main moods these 5 sthayi bhavs that are described by Rupa Goswami in order to establish some relationship there. The lowest one is Santa Rasa, which is something which is even not contemplated as part of what Mahaprabhu came to give, if we will. But at the same time, that Santa Rasa, if you study what Rupa Goswami said, is mainly characterized by selflessness, by the total selflessness. Prahlad Maharaj is the famous example where when Nrsimhadev is offering him something, some blessing, whatever he likes, and he says, Amikichunaina, I don't want anything, I don't want anything. I only want to serve you, I only want to, Nadanam, Najanam, Nasundarim, etc. So actually, when we say there are different degrees of selflessness there, it's another way of saying there are other degrees of dedication, because the point is all of them are fully selfless. You cannot inhabit the spiritual world being selfish. So selflessness has to be reach the top, if you will. And on the basis of being free from all selfish interests, separate interests, one will develop a positive spirit of dedication. And that we will find different degrees. Of course, this has been established in the scriptures in a categorical way. The different rasas reach different levels of experiencing prem, and all that is connected to different degrees of dedication, if you will. Which it doesn't mean that, I don't know, if someone in Madhurya Bhav will reach a particular type of experience of Mahabhav, and someone in Vatsalya or Dasya Bhav won't reach that, it means they are selfish. No, nobody there has selfishness at all. But again, selfishness is not even a positive, if you will, in one sense, quality, in the sense that it's a lack of selfishness. But when I mentioned there are different degrees of selflessness, I was mainly implying in a more positive sense, not only the lack of selfishness, because that's already implied by the idea of being there, being nitya siddha or being sadhana siddha, being kripa siddha, being siddha. For being a siddha, no selfishness can be there. But when I say the degrees of selflessness, I implied more, since there cannot be selfishness, so what does it mean, degrees of selflessness? So basically, I mean in a positive sense, degrees of prem, of dedication, of priti, whatever, however you may like to term that. So those things we will find. We will find some hierarchy in that sense, but it's a transcendental one. So at the same time, we should be careful of not projecting mundane attributes to that, or thinking in terms of worse or better. Of course, as we always say, in a objective way, we can compare all the different relationships to Krishna. We can conclude objectively. For example, Madhurya Rasa is the sweetest. That's why it's called Madhurya, which means sweet. But subjectively, we will conclude not everyone will like sweet that much, or that much sweet. Some people may like mangoes, that's a favorite fruit, the sweetest one. And some others may like apples as a favorite fruit. It's not so sweet. But it doesn't matter. You are not a worse person because you like apples and not mangoes. So at the same time, someone may have an affinity to not the sweetest attainment, but that's perfect for them, and they will feel subjectively this is the best possible experience. And they are right, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says. Every devotee will feel the relationship with Krishna is the best, and everyone will be right. So we should be able to accommodate this type of perspectives. So some ideas regarding that. I hope that helps.
Yeah, that helped. Thank you. That was great.
Something else? Okay, it seems we have no more questions today. So thank you very much to all of you. So tomorrow we won't be having class. Tomorrow is Friday. As you remember, we are giving this presentation from Monday to Thursday. So we will see you next Monday, but hopefully see you on the weekend. Now Archon City will maybe share some announcement in that regard. But I want to say goodbye to you all first. Srila Gurudev ki jai, Sriman Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Shri Gaur Radhamala ki jai, Granthada Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri GOPI-GITA ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premananda Haribo, Chakalpataru Vaishnav Ananta Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Well, I don't know if Archon City wants to announce the retreat for the weekend.
Just one more time. I'm sure you guys have heard it about 30 times. But yes, this weekend we're having our second Dapa retreat, and Bhavanava Swami will be presenting both Saturday and Sunday, along with Dulal Chandra, Vaishnav Maharaj, and our Guru Maharaj. Will all be presenting during the weekend. So it's going to be...
you and Archana.
Well, yeah, and me anyway. So we've got a good lineup of talks and also some participatory activities, and I think it's going to be really nice for connecting with the Sangha in a very meaningful, deep way. So hoping everybody can make time to tune in. At 9:30 starts on Saturday, goes to about 6:30 on Saturday, and Sunday it starts at same time, but we'll have japa from 7 to 9:30 in the morning. The schedule just got sent out today. Sri Chaitanya Sangha. It's an advertisement with Bhakti Rasa's newsletter that was sent out again through the Sangha. So please check that for the details of the schedule. And really look forward to seeing everybody. And that'll be just the day after tomorrow. And thank you so much for the sixth beautiful class of GOPI-GITA. And they just get better every day. So thank you. Sweeter, more Madhurya, ever increasing.
Okay, be careful with the diabetes, you say?
Yeah, be careful with being diabetic, right?
Diabetes, not sweet.
Too sweet.
There is one question here from Abai in the chat. I'll transit if you want to answer.
Yeah, oh, dear friend. Oh, no.
The last one.
I don't have it. Oh, it must have just been to you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not on the chat.
Oh, sorry. I was just wondering, Saturday, unfortunately, after work, I assume it's okay to join in the retreat midway through if that's the only option.
Sure, yeah, of course.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. And that Sunday I'll have off, so great. Thank you.
Yes, Jai. I look forward to seeing you.
Jai. See you soon.
See you all soon. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.